So word on the web is Apple will be launching its fresh new iPhone 17e in the next month or two. And I, for one, am giddier than a pensioner clutching a fresh pack of custard creams. And yes, of course, last year's iPhone 16e was a slightly flawed handset. One might even say it was piss poor value compared with mid-range Android phones that are hundreds of pounds cheaper, if one wasn't terrified of being blacklisted forever by Apple's PR overlords. And so in this week's episode we ask, what do we actually know about the iPhone 17e and what can Apple do to make it a bit less poo? All after our award-winning jingle. Techspert Weekly! Now first up, good news. Apple appears to be sticking with that compact 6.1-inch design for the iPhone 17e, which I'm proper chuffed about because that was my favourite thing about the old 16e. It seems like every sodden smartphone these days is the size of King Kong's hemorrhoids, so a mini alternative certainly gets the Uncle Spurt hand shandy of approval. And word is Apple will shrink those chunky bezels a wee bit for even nicer hand feel, and it would also be great to see some bolder, brighter colour options compared with the rather bland black and white versions of the iPhone 16e. Now, as mentioned, the iPhone 17e will sport another 6.1-inch display, although potentially with that dynamic island instead of a big fat notch. However, rumours reckon that Apple will stick with the same OLED panel as the iPhone 16e, which would once again mean bugger all always on display and that same lethargic 60Hz refresh. It really would be a lovely surprise if they actually upgraded it to a 120Hz panel or, even 90Hz to make it feel a bit less treacly. And then the screen experience would actually match the performance, which was fine on the iPhone 16e, only the occasional frame rate drop when playing more demanding titles like Genshin Impact. The iPhone 17e certainly shouldn't struggle in that department either, boasting an A19 chipset just like Apple's flagships, although it is expected to come with a less powerful GPU. And likewise, the iPhone 16e boasted some pretty decent battery life, although the lack of MagSafe support was a bit of a twat. But mercifully, those web whisperings suggest that Apple has corrected this MagSafe mistake for the iPhone 17e, while word is also that they've slipped in the same C1X modem as the iPhone Air. Woof, don't know about you, but my nipples could cut through glass right now. And on the software side, Apple has made a major breakthrough when it comes to AI, by finally admitting that Apple Intelligence is actually about as clever as a sack of bricks, and just hoying buckets of cash at Google for Gemini instead. Here's hoping they get that all patched in sharpish, and then Siri might actually be more useful than the average estate agent. Also, last year Apple finally boosted the storage for its iPhone flagships, so they come with a minimum of 256 gigs of storage space now, so it'd be lovely to see them also do that on the iPhone 17e. Especially as certain games featuring scantily clad anime lasses are now pushing 50 gigs by themselves. As for the optics, well, the iPhone 16e's singular 48MP camera was fine for simple everyday shooting, beyond the usual heavy Apple processing shenanigans of course. But many mid-rangers these days, the likes of the Xiaomi 15Ts, the Nothing Phone 3As, the Samsung Galaxy A56, they do come with a dedicated telephoto lens. And that really helps out when you're shooting kids, pets, etc. So to see one on the iPhone 17e would be absolutely smashing, although let's face it, it's not going to bloody happen, is it? On word is that Apple is not going to be slapping on that dedicated camera button, which is fine by me because that thing absolutely honks. Now, one last thing on my iPhone 17e wish list, and if you thought that some of these other requests were hopeless optimism bordering on lunacy, well, this one's a proper Dreamland special with pink f***ing elephants dancing a jig. But hey, Apple, how about making the iPhone 17e a bit cheaper, mate? I mean, this is supposed to be an affordable iPhone after all, and let's face it, if you can get an Android phone with a gorgeous 120Hz display and a telephoto camera, excellent battery life, all the rest of it, for about 300-400 quid, then why not an iPhone? Oh, and also one final request as well, please no more dodgy slogans, no more the biggest thing to happen to iPhone since iPhone, or bigger than bigger type bollockry. Maybe let's just go with honesty, eh? In fact, here's one you can have for free. You can't afford a decent iPhone and you can't be asked to swap to Android, so here's what you get, you filthy poor. So what's your own personal wish list for the iPhone 17e? Definitely let us know down below. And now it's time for this. Dodgy thumbnail of the week. That's right, dodgy thumbnail of the week, or DTOTWA, is back by popular demand. Or more honestly, because one bloke asked me if I'd ever do another one, and frankly I need more filler to pad out this shower of shit masquerading as a legitimate tech show. Now, a wee bit of backstory if you happen to have not seen this segment before. Basically, every single week I get dozens and dozens of randoms emailing me to tell me that my video thumbnails are basically aids for the eyeballs, and I should pay them money to knock up proper ones in MS Paint. And this week's winning contribution is from Strickland Beef Pull, name changed slightly to protect the guilty, and it's a proper cracker as always. Now first up, what do these guys actually do to my face every sodden time? It's like they gave my photo to Gemini and said, make him look 40% more like a sex pest. Look, I already have the kind of face that you'd expect to spot lurking in the bushes at an Aldi car park used for dogging. I really don't need AI to come along and make me look even more dodgy. And also, whose hands are these? Because they sure as f*** aren't mine. And don't look quite as withered, and those nails haven't been bitten right down to the krull. And of course, you've got to love the obligatory sparkly blue background. Kinda looks like Papa Smurf just walked in and shot his load all over the place. Anyway, thanks to Mr. Beef Pull for spending 20 seconds knocking up that little masterpiece in ChatGPT. Job offer is in the post. And now it's time for the part of the show where you say something and then I say something, and it's all irrelevant because no one's bloody watching, because everyone already clicked off to watch a video of some rich bellend reviewing a bunch of shit he bought on Temu. It's fewer comments. Fewer comments.
What do I have to talk dirty to you?
So we'll kick off this week with a comment from Jonathan Port. You read Jonathan, who says, "Hi Sir Spurt. Sadly I've not been knighted just yet, though I'm positive that I'm on Charlie's 2026 list. Knighted for services to making the internet even shitter than it already is. But I digress." Jonathan continues, "The apocalypse is coming along nicely." Yeah, it sure bloody is, isn't it? I've actually been playing quite a lot of the Silent Hill 2 remake this week, and let me tell you, the town in that game actually seems more pleasant than real life. Yes to Shoes simply says, "Baldy." Indeed. Yeah, you're yes to shoes, I am very much yes to hats. Burp39R says that AFCON game was like WWF crossed with a carry-on film. You know what, that would be a fantastic way to actually decide a match when it's tied at full time, rather than pissing around with extra time and then penalties. Just push a wrestling ring onto the pitch and then have a proper little Royal Rumble, and the last person standing, his team wins. And considering how easy Jack bloody Grealish goes down when someone just gives him a slight nudge, I'd like to see how he copes with a steel chair to the face. Ray Cheshire says, "Those monks from Belgium brew a few good beers, but the beer that did for me was Duvel. That is powerful stuff." Yeah, those monks really do not fuck about, like minimum double digits, quite a lot of those brews. I was actually in Belgium again this week, only just got back this morning. I was out there for a tech thing that I can't talk about because I'm NDA'd right up to the small intestine. I was only out there for all of 24 hours, but still managed to find time for a few super strength beers, thankfully. So why, this morning, that early rise was not appreciated. Felt like my head had been run over by a bloody cement mixer. And last week, of course, we were having a lovely wee chat about the upcoming Pixel 10a, so lots of correspondence on that subject. Bonus Baby says, "Sounds like Pixel woke up one morning, looked at the calendar and said, oh shit, we've got to put out a phone quick, grab what's left of the Pixel 9a's and slap 10a on the box." A sound theory, sir, and possibly truth. Patrick Cheek says, "Perfect time for me to get a 9A," and MLife9072 says, "The Pixel 10 and the 9A are massively discounted in Australia, so I'm not sure where a 10A would actually sit from a pricing point of view. A 9A would be near identical specs for $200 less." Well, this is it. I just don't understand, if they are so similar, why you would buy a Pixel 10a over a 9a unless they're given some sort of like ridiculous trade-in offers or, I don't know, free hand jobs with every purchase. Capita97 says, "So many words to basically say Pixel 9a equals 10a. Hey, I already said, man, I gotta pad this thing out to make it legitimate show length, alright? Why do you think I'm reading out all these comments calling me a baldy bastard? Blackhawk says, "They need to at least shrink the bezels, increase the charging speed and brighten the screen. 9A owners obviously still wouldn't have a good reason to upgrade, but it would at least be enough for new buyers. And I'd really like to see an A-Series Plus model, much prefer a bigger screen." Yeah, I'm honestly shocked that Google hasn't done that already, because yeah, you'd used to expect like a Pixel 10a Plus would be a popular oh, I'm blaming the Belgian beer on this. A proper popular one. Phil Brady says, when will you be reviewing the Motorola Signature? And likewise, the Zialu says, long time no Motorola. Any chance to see the new Signature here? I mean, abso-friggin-lutely. Have you ever known your Uncle Spurt to turn down a Motorola smartphone? I must have reviewed about 250 of the buggers by now. Unfortunately, no word yet on when review samples will be coming in for all the new Motorola handsets that they've launched recently. Of course, a whole bunch of new Moto Gs as well this week, about 4 of the bastards, so stay tuned. There's going to be some Motorola heavy content coming your way. And Mama2 Leaf says, hello Uncle Spurt, nice video as always. Thank you very much, very kind indeed. Any news on Xiaomi's new Pad 8 and Pad 8 Pro? Again, hopefully more on all of that soon, so yeah, poke subscribe, ding that bell, etc. And David Ellis says, I had the Zenfone 8 Flip and I miss it. Cracking phone. All of those Zenfones, to be fair, back in the day were absolute bangers. And yeah, the Flip was highly addictive, a lot of fun. Surprised that nobody nicked that design idea actually, but yeah, they don't make them as mental as that anymore. Nazima Dolly says, how was the Pixel 10 series disappointing? It's literally the most sold Pixel ever. I'm sure that Google is certainly not counting it as a disappointment as far as those sales figures are concerned. But yes, I find it's always important to distinguish between sales figures and goodness. I mean, after all, considerably more people went to the cinema to see the Emoji Movie compared with, say, The Shawshank Redemption. And I did actually finally review the Pixel 10 Pro XL this week, so that's there if you do want my full thoughts. But if you can't be arsed with that, the TLDR version is basically, I found, personally, the Pixel 10 series was a disappointment because it made no real tangible improvements over the previous Pixel generation. Even when it came to the storage, Google was super stingy and stuck with 128 gigs in the Pixel 10 and the regular Pixel 10 Pro as well, in a year where even Apple finally bloody upgraded it to 256 gigs minimum. And gaming experience is pretty woeful for a flagship. The battery life is considerably shorter than a lot of rivals, and I'm still finding bugs on the Pixel 10 and the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And this is coming from someone who's been infatuated with Pixel phones ever since the OG over a decade ago. And of course, the most hilarious part is that because I haven't been absolutely gushing all over the Pixel 10 smartphones, I've had lots of people online calling me a massive Apple fanboy. I bloody love the internet, me. And Gerard Martin says, yay, finally a Techspert Weekly where Uncle Spurt hasn't bollocksed up one or more body parts. And another one today as well, hooray, 2 in a row, as long as you don't count the stinking hangover. I would dance a wee jig of joy if I didn't think I might f*** up my ankle or something. Mega O says, Asus and OnePlus, sad times. OnePlus will be out of the US, not sure about everywhere else though. Yeah, OnePlus are still insisting that those rumours are more bollocks than the average funfair hot dog. I don't know, I mean, you know, as sad as it might be, I would not be surprised if Oppo did end up phasing out OnePlus over the next sort of year or so. Especially like the OnePlus 15, I'd like it, but it just felt completely redundant, released in the same territories as the Oppo Find X9 series. Even if OnePlus did try to focus more on the gaming experience compared with the cameras like the Oppos. And better make this the last comment of the week. So Polito1980 says, I challenge thee to try the Order of Yoni beer if you're a fan of tasting unusuals. The Order of Yoni beer, I have never heard of this. Sounds sort of sinister, really. Oh, what the Okay, if you happen to be watching this video at work or somewhere in public, whatever you do, for the love of God, do not Google this Yoni beer stuff. I'm very confused. It just appears to be a bunch of pictures of women wearing not a huge amount of clothing and doing things with beer bottles. Ooh, hello. Okay, in the website menu there's a story section. Let's find out what that's all about. Great goddess, the greatest among gods, feminine deity whose main reincarnations were Aphrodite. What is all this? Alright, I've read all of that and I'm absolutely none the wiser of what is going on here. Oh, hang on a sec. In the beer description, It says, full of divine aspects, femininity, sensuality, charm, passion, and sexuality due to the usage of vaginal lactobacillus of great goddess angels in the brewing process. In English, does that mean they've basically squirted in fanny juice? Okay, I mean, I'm even more confused than I usually am. Right now, I've got no idea what's going on, but thanks for the recommendation. And a massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Please do tappity tap your comments, thoughts, weird beer suggestions down in the comments below, and we'll get through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week, what the f is next week? So next week, there's going to be more tech couple some more reviews and stuff, and hey, see if your Uncle Spurt can make it 3 weeks in a row without crocking himself. So that's it. Massive thanks for watching this shower of through to the bitter end. Please do book, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell if you haven't done so already. Have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful weekend. Cheers, everybody. Love you.